The Acquiring of Wisdom by Faye W. Owen of Laurieton, 2443. Narrated by Rowena Robinson. Sometimes Melanie thought she had become wiser as she aged, and sometimes she knew she hadn't. And what is wisdom anyway? That is a curly question, she thought. Her mind went back over her life in a meandering picture show, recalling silly little events she thought she had put behind her. Like the time, aged 16, she had dropped her first boyfriend. How hurt he was! And all because she was too inept to know how to explain to him that she did not want to be too serious at that age. She could sense that he seemed to feel that he had found the one. She was not ready for commitment. What a lovely boy he was. She still thought of him with fondness, and surprisingly often. More maturity might have seen a different path for her life, but would it have been the right path? She thought of the sweet husband she did had, and the precious children she loved so much. She could not imagine being without them. Her mind went over the work she had done. Her heart had been set on being a primary school teacher. She won a scholarship to a distant teachers' college, but family circumstances dictated she remain at home. Her choice there was limited. So she trained as a secretary, working in that field until it was time to have children. It was okay, but her heart was never in it, and she had known that she was capable of more. Had she had more worldly wisdom, she might have petitioned the education department for nearer placement on compassionate grounds. But naive as she was, she simply accepted the situation. Again, she thought, her life's path would have taken a very different direction. Who knows where it would have led and who she might have married? One thing being older had taught her: contentment. She might regret that she had not used her abilities to the full, and she did regret that. But when she looked back at how blessed she had been, who was to say that that path she took was the wrong one? Seeing how many of her old school friends' marriages ended in divorce, or whose husbands had abandoned them for other women, or died at an early age, leaving them to bring up children on their own, made one reflect on how good life had been. Tenderly, she remembered all the time she and her teacher husband had spent together, sharing a simple life, but also sharing interests and hobbies, love of poetry and literature, music and art. Differently, it is true, but that bond was there, a precious bond. And the many school holidays they shared caravanning with the kids after she resumed work, choosing to be a teacher's aide so they could share the school holidays. That job put her in touch with children, not quite as a teacher, but involved. Yes, she had been blessed. If she had had the ordering of her own life, making choices off the cuff, what a mess she might have made of things. And if, perhaps, she had gone a different way, would she have had the time, in what might have been a much busier life, to enjoy her writing, her music, her painting? These were the things which had made her life so rich. Being successful and being busy were not necessarily all there was to life. She remembered the old verse, "What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare." She would never have been a poet if she had not had time to contemplate, reflect, daydream even. And now that she was alone, those things were the things which sustained her. And of course her faith. Another path, and she may not have had that faith, and she could not live without it. That was what gave meaning to everything else. Yes, there were some things she regretted, of course, and some things she felt guilty for not having done, things she felt she had needed to do. But on balance, she thought, she would not change her life for some magical dream which might never have come true. Is that the essence of wisdom? She wondered. I suppose each little life lesson adds to our understanding of ourselves and others. I am much more tolerant of differences in people than I was. Well, you have to be these days, don't you? She thought. She remembered how uncomplicated life was when she was young. Actually, it seemed stressful enough then. But compared with the pace of life today, the influences of technology, changes in moral compass, one would hardly recognize Australia today for the Australia of 1956 when she had done the leaving certificate. Today's young have so many ideas thrust at them, are battered on all sides by groups pushing their own agenda, subjected to ideas way beyond their emotional intelligence level. She found herself breathing. I am so glad I grew up then. Life must be so confusing for the young. It is confusing enough for me, and I have had 80-odd years to accommodate those changes. Melissa turned from where she had been idly snipping dead roseheads from the long-stemmed golden Catherine Macaulay rosebush in her garden. Time I went and did something useful, she murmured. I've daydreamed enough for one morning. Whether I have worked out the secret of wisdom or not is a moot point. Highly unlikely, I would imagine. But I suppose I have realized that life is a teacher. How much we learn from it depends on us, I guess. The lessons are there. Anyway, let's hope I've learned a few of them, at least. Though I have a sneaking suspicion, I still have quite a way to go. Oh, well. The end.